As you enter the alchemy shop, the last known location of the last victim, you find a note. It looks like it had some blood on it. And it says, "Please help me. I think the guy who was trying to find me and kill me, his name is Xandor." "Oh, by the heavens, he is coming into my room now. Please, help me. There's no one else in the shop to protect me. Please." Hold on, I'm sorry. What did you say his name was again?
And freeze. Was it really that player's fault? You are giving them a lot of information at once. Is there a way that we can rectify that? Change that from happening? So the player doesn't get confused?
As you enter the alchemy shop, the last known location of the latest victim, you find a note on the ground. Here you go. Oh, jeez.
Welcome to Game On, a channel dedicated to RPGs, wargaming, and board games. With myself and my co-host Matt, we have many years of gaming experience. Enjoy!
Oh, well, hello. I didn't see you there. It's the butt crack of dawn on the next morning after a late night of D&D, and I needed some coffee here. Interestingly enough, I'm actually drinking orange juice too. I never really do that. I don't think I've ever had orange juice while I was drinking coffee. I've never done this. Yeah, I know. That was a bad idea. I would normally say spoiler alert, but this isn't really a spoiler, because I ran Death House completely different than how you're supposed to run Death House, to the point where it wasn't really Death House. Pro tip though, if you are ever looking for a Halloween one-shot, where you want to really spook your players up, you want to send them through a haunted house, send them through Death House. And send them through Death House at like first level. Oh, your players will hate you. Okay, maybe more like third. First to third, I think, is what it's written for. Maybe try second. Anyway, so the way I was running it was to the point where it wasn't really Death House. What had happened was they had my players last night had stumbled upon this the Durst house. Through means of a child drawing them a picture. By the way, I didn't have to try. This is just how I draw. Shout out to someone. There was a DM's web advice online that I found. And they showed a picture kind of like that where kids in Barovia were drawing scary pictures. So I was like, you know what? I'll do that for this house as well. But what they were doing was they were. I used a combination because they're all new players, so it doesn't really matter. If you have veteran players who are super cynical, you might want to watch out for this exact detail. But I had them go into Death House and find journal articles of a paladin detective who was there about 300 years ago. You'll see that. The super cynical players will see that it is definitely the wrong year. Where is it? The year is definitely wrong. Also, Midas is an Elder Scrolls thing, but Uktar is Forgotten Realms. So they were finding these journal articles as they were going through the house, trying to figure out what the hell happened here 300 years ago. So the reason why I was running Death House is because well, not really Death House, but the players had kind of begged, well, one of them did, if they could go to Barovia. He played, not Curse of Strahd, but the Castle Ravenloft back in 2nd edition, and he's like, I want to play Curse of Strahd. So I figured I would get them in through this kind of death house thing like a lot of people have gotten to Barovia through. And they also found notes and a letter from Strahd, some of which is actually wax sealed. And I'm going to show you guys how to do this kind of stuff on the super cheap, because even though I am a personal trainer, it's not as glamorous as it looks on TV, and I don't make that much money. Right, so everything that you're about to see is on the super cheap. Because I understand that as a DM, you want to do things cheap. Some people go all the way out for things, but I'm hoping that everything I'm showing you is something that you either have in your house already, or you can easily and quickly and cheaply acquire everything I'm about to show you. First thing you're going to want to do is get yourself a shirt that you don't care getting dirty. We're going to start on this kind of effect. Basically, if you want to make your paper look old, make it look like it's seen some stuff, this is what we're going to do first. Now, it actually started off as a regular piece of printer paper. This has both logs on it because I like to save the earth and not use too much paper. If I could use like recycled paper, I will, but this is all I had is just standard printer paper. So we're going to turn this right here into this, and we're going to do it pretty quickly and for, maybe 4 cents. I'm going to show you the best method on how to do this. There's a couple different ways you can probably see online how to do something like this. One of them involves soy sauce and or teriyaki sauce, and you don't want to do that. That's trust me, I've tried. Either I do it wrong, or everyone who does props with soy sauce will smell like Chinese food. And I guess if you're doing a Call of Cthulhu game in old China, do they even have soy sauce over there? I don't know. Anyway, what I got here is a store brand tea bag, because you can get 500 of them for a nickel. That is an exaggeration. I am very good at that. But you can get a lot of these for super cheap. And chances are, if you live with people who drink tea or are old, you will probably have one of these, at least a couple of these bags hidden somewhere upstairs, up in your spice cabinet. I said upstairs there. It is upstairs for me. But in your spice cabinet, in your bacon cabinet, I'm sure you can find one of these. And if you can't, just go and get the store brand. You're not drinking this at all. You don't want to. So, the best way of doing this is to get a little bit of water in here. So the way I have it is I have maybe a little over a quarter cup in there, and I bring it to a boil. Now, once you bring it to a boil, you let it kind of cool down for a little bit. I cool it down for at least 30 seconds. This has been cooling for about 1.5 minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to take it out, and be careful, don't burn yourself. I have hands of steel. Not really, but this will be fine, especially if I hold the back. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. I suggest starting out with the wipey method, which is where you just kind of wipe it. If it is way too saturated, you can kind of drip it out into the cup. This is actually going to be kind of okay. Mainly because it seems to be enough to cover it. Now, in some situations, I'll do something like this. I'll squeeze the tea bag, and I'll kind of leave it there so it gets a little bit more of the tannins in one spot as opposed to the other. And I'm realizing now that you don't see that well. So that's that. I do suggest flipping it over and doing the other side. It does soak through. However, giving it a good go here. It's a great way to cheap and easy make a piece of paper look old. Now, I suggest, pardon me as I step away, there's two ways to do this. There's a third way, but I'm not going to tell you because I don't want my YouTube channel to get sued. You can dry this either inside, like on a drying rack like this. By the way, tinfoil on top of a baking rack. Very, very, very good way of doing this. Now you can let air dry here. Once it starts to dry, it'll kind of crinkle up just a little bit and it'll come off the tinfoil really easily. So you can do that. You can take a hair dryer to it, which I have also done. Or what I did for this yesterday was I actually baked it out in the sun. I put it on my driveway on some tinfoil. Yesterday was quite sunny. This thing dried up in about 3 minutes. It was ready to take off and work with. So while this particular guy is drying, we are going to work on something else. Well, this just finishes up drying. It's doing pretty well, actually. It dried pretty quickly. It's not very humid out. I was busy mixing up my blood. So, blood is easy. You can get these at the dollar store if you don't have them already. Some of you probably already have food coloring somewhere in your baking or spices cabinet. So, the way I make blood, because I like my blood to look kind of dry and old, is red and blue. And there's no real way that I can tell you how to do it perfectly. It's trial and error for me still. It's usually 3 parts red, 1 part blue is a good place to start. You are going to end up making way more than you need. That's just the downside to it, because you can't really control the drop that well. But I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like if you do it in a couple different ways. So this is straight up red food coloring. It looks kind of fresh. I still probably would add some sort of darkening agent to it, maybe a little bit of blue, maybe even a little bit of green for fresh blood. But you'd have to make a whole lot of it to get that little tiny bit of dilution just to make it look a little bit dark. So that's up to you. This is just straight up red food coloring. This is what happens if you put too much blue in your red food coloring. Also, it stains your hands. This is all from the food coloring, so just watch out. Hence why I'm actually wearing my shirt. The shirt isn't so much for the tea, it's for the food coloring. This is what happens when you have too much blue and then you add some red to it to try to make it more red. So I'd say that this is 1 or 2 drops straight red. This was, okay, so what I did is 3 drops red, 2 drops blue. That didn't work. So I added 1 more drop of red, and that's what this turned into. I added, actually at this point, I dumped everything out. And what was the remnants of the dark that was already in there, I added some red to it, and that's what I got. And finally, I ended up with this one, which is about the equivalent of 1 drop blue, 3 to 4 drops red. It's hard to kind of get an exact measurement when you're using leftovers. But this is what I want. This is the desire that I like to get. It's kind of hard to see. I wish I had better lighting. But even if it didn't look perfect on white paper, it looks really, really good on this dark paper. And pro tip, you don't want to get this on your counter, so always try to keep it on a place that is covered. But this right here, this coloring, should come out to look like this on this kind of paper. So what we're gonna do is, now that this guy is pretty dry, we are going to do the most dangerous part of the prop assembly. In danger as in, like, if you're not smart about what you're doing, it can hurt you. So that's what we'll do now. I'm gonna do this next step on a very much non-flammable area. I'm actually gonna move this just because. Again, this is, you gotta be careful with this. Sometimes I do it outside, but it's kind of hard to do this outside and film it. I have a glass of water, just in case. If you are a DM and you are a youth, you are not an adult, have an adult help you with this. Don't just go and do this. Adults, you're an adult. But kids, be very careful. Please ask for your parents' help for this, or any adult to help you with this. What we want to do is, I'm not going to use my torch, I'm just going to use this guy. We are going to quickly burn parts of this. Now, even if the prop, the piece of paper wouldn't have been in a place that was burned, like even if it was found in the Arctic, still doing some burn marks on it kind of gives it an aged look, and you'll find that it's kind of hard to catch these guys directly on fire, but you still want to be very, very, very careful. So this guy got away from me, but that's fine because I actually kind of like it sometimes if it covers up one or two words that people have to infer. But that's why you want to keep some water with you just in case something like that happens. I didn't need the water, I could blow it out quite quickly. But what you're just trying to do is singe the edges and blow it out to kind of give it a burnt look. But the burnt look doesn't necessarily make it look like it's been through a fire. It just kind of makes it look like it's old. Now, if you have a better, if you have a slightly better torch, I use a pipe lighter. It's a little bit easier for this. But if you kind of go up and down, it makes it a little bit easier if you don't have a lighter like this. But as you can see, I'm doing a very good job keeping this in focus. As you can see, as you do this, it doesn't necessarily make it look like it was through a fire, but the flames give it a pretty darn good effect that, you know, this thing's old. Especially with the way the paper is. If you were to give this to a player, they could probably assume that this was, you know, an old piece of paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this look like someone who was carrying it. I'm going to use all the same piece of paper for this, so just to save resources. But I'm going to show you what I do if I want to make it look like this guy who was, or woman who was carrying this didn't have a really good time. So I'm just going to kind of blot some blood on it. Let's do a little bit there. I don't want to cover up the words completely. Let's do it like that. And I'm going to wait for this to dry, because I'm actually going to use this as well on my wax seal. And I'm going to flip it over and kind of sandwich it together and seal it with the wax. So it looks like they found this covered in blood with a wax seal on it. This is where you're gonna want water and tongs. Kids, ask an adult to help you with this. Just kind of melt the crayon over where I want it to make the seal. Again, you know, if you want to have an adult with you, if you're a kid doing this, I find that you want a lot of wax if you're actually trying to seal it. If it's just decorative, you don't need this much wax. Basically turned a piece of regular paper into this, which is a lot more exciting than telling your players what they find, and you just give them this, and it kind of helps them get more engrossed in the world. All of this, I had in my house. I didn't have to buy anything extra for any of this. This was all just in my house, and the grand total of making this was less than 10 cents. So, you know, I'm sure everyone can say that they have a dime somewhere in their pocket. And if this is too hard for you, if it's something that you don't want to do, at least print something out for someone. Even if you don't want to go through all this craziness, just print something out and hand it to your players. Handouts make everything better, and they make horror games so much spookier when you find pieces of notes of like a child writing to their mother and you find it covered in blood. It's like, that's so much creepier than you telling your players that. So, I thank you guys for watching. Thank you for watching the beginnings of our YouTube channel, Game On. Our next video should have my awesome co-host Matt in it. And I've been rambling too long, so have a good day, guys.